Okay, another lesson from Cliff on chess. Why castling can be bad. Again. Now, firstly, you'll notice that I was playing white and my opponent was playing black. Okay? At this point, because of one or two blunders I'd made earlier, I'm in a very bad position. Okay? You'll notice that the queen, the black queen and the black rook are threatening me near the bottom, and I'm also, I believe, I was a piece down. I'm not sure if I still was. Right. But the point is, it looks like a bad position overall. Okay? But never underestimate the power of the pawn. Okay? Supposedly the least important piece on the board. Okay? But you're going to be astonished by what happens. Okay? Also, my opponent was winning on time. I had 3 minutes 20 left. My opponent had 1 minute 45. Sorry, other way around. My opponent had 3 minutes 20 seconds, and I had 1 minute 45 seconds left. Okay, let's look at what my opponent did. A very good move on the surface. Okay, he moved his bishop to threaten my queen, so that he could then take my rook. Okay, but will greed get the better of him? Let's see what happens. Okay, I moved my queen down. In hindsight, I wasn't even thinking straight. I could have threatened his to take his rook off as well, in hindsight, but I wasn't quite that clever at the time. Okay? And in fact, it would probably have been an even quicker checkmate if I had, but never mind. Right? So I moved that so it seems fairly innocent, okay? In hindsight, I should have moved the queen to threaten the rook, but it would probably have just moved the rook out of the way or something. What I'm going to do then, for some really strange reason that I do not understand, my opponent decided to castle. Why he didn't take my rook straight away, I don't know. I think he was intending to move the rook to align with the other rook and the queen, so could then try and get a checkmate. Okay? Simply by forcing me to by trying to take a rook off and do other things, but never fear. Then I, for some reason, moved the pawn up. Okay? I didn't even notice at the time that my rook was being threatened. This is actually a better move than it even seems. My opponent straight away took my rook. I then took his pawn off. For some reason, he then moved his pawn down instead of taking my pawn. I then moved the queen up. Check. He, or she, I'm just going to say he for simplicity. He then moved the king. Then I moved the bishop, about to protect the pawn. for some reason. I hadn't quite worked out why yet, but I thought it might help. Then he got really greedy. Stupendously greedy. He thought, I know, I'll just threaten his queen and see if he could take my queen off. Instead, thinking I might force a check. No, I take the knight off. Check. Bear in mind, at this point, he has got 2 rooks to my 1, and I don't even need my rook apart from protection, and a queen, and so there you go. And I am now have his knight, but his knight is not important. Position, as I've said before, is everything. The number of pieces you've got is irrelevant. Position is everything. And that was an incredible blunder, not for losing his knight. Now, you'll notice that the king can only move to one of 2 places. It wouldn't have mattered which. Now, at this point, you probably think, well, what can happen now? You probably think, well, black can now probably threaten me with checkmate rather quickly. After all, I can't move the king very much. And he might even decide to try and threaten my queen in some way. In fact, I moved the queen next. Now you'll notice I'm going to go back a bit. Let's look just at the times at the bottom. After he moved his king, I spent quite some time working out on moving the bishop. Quite why it took so long I do not know. I now had 18 seconds left on the clock. Look at the bottom, 18 seconds on the clock left. Take my word for it, I know it's not showing on this video, but my opponent had 1 minute 46 left. So I had 18 seconds now, and my opponent had 1 minute 46 left. Now, at this point, I had 14 seconds left, and my opponent had 1 minute left. So my opponent was about to win on time. Now, I had 14 seconds left to make a move. I had 14 seconds to win the game. I won it in 1 move, with just 9 seconds left. Checkmate. Once again, black was pinned in, simply because he castled. Often, if you castle, the king is pinned in and is wide open for checkmate, because it is pinned in if you have a pawn protecting a queen that's attacking the king. If he hadn't castled, I say he, again it could be a she, then I haven't looked at, oh it's okay, then you would notice that I couldn't have done that. But also he would have found it harder to have aligned his rook with his other rook. But the price of him being greedy and trying to threaten my queen, and also trying to align and get checkmate quickly, and also wanting to take my rook, was you lost the game. So, there you go. Proof that castling isn't always a good idea. Because if we go back to before they castled, you'll notice before then, okay, I had stopped the king from moving to the left with my rook. But the queen could probably have threatened, but the rook could have been threatened in some way. So I would have had to move the rook in some way, so perhaps then the rook could have been taken off. There may have been some way that the rook could have been threatened and made to move. But at the moment, the king could move 2 places, which at the moment I weren't particularly threatened. But because they decide to be greedy, and because they for some reason believe that castling is the best thing in the world, because all the books say castle whenever you can, they just then suddenly found themselves pinned in. And as I said, if you look at the end, they were definitely pinned in. Even more so than they were, wait a minute, before they castled. As there they could have moved one, because at least there, although he couldn't move his king, his knight I mean, right, at least there was some protection from the rook. And also from black's rook. And also if they'd have moved to the right one, I couldn't the king right to the right by one move. I couldn't eat with the rook protecting the knight. I couldn't have taken the knight off, and the knight could then have moved out and perhaps done some other things. The knight could then have moved out and threatened my queen, and could have probably done other things later. But because they decided to be very greedy and take my rook off, and because they didn't appreciate the power of a pawn, and they didn't realise that castling can be so lethal at times that it is suicidal in many cases, they lost. Okay, so that's another lesson in chess in why castling isn't always a good idea. Okay, thanks for watching, guys. Bye.